It looks like Penn State's head coach, James Franklin, flew all the way to California for nothing. D'Anton Lynn just got a contract extension.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great news. Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Culkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC part of the Locked On Network, your first listen every day. Whether you're watching the show on YouTube, wherever you're going to download the podcast, the show's free, and I always appreciate your support. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers, you can bet $5 and you can get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Late Thursday afternoon, if you heard this sound, that was a huge collective sigh of relief from the USC Trojan family. USC defensive coordinator D'Anton Lynn, they came to an agreement, new contract extension. He's going to remain with the Trojans. I cannot emphasize enough how huge, how big of a move this is for USC and Lincoln Riley. The stability and a guy who knows how to, coach up whatever he has on the roster. D'Anton Lynn has proved that he can walk into two different programs and he can fix it overnight. He did it at UCLA in one year, did the same thing at USC in the next year. This was Coach Lynn's first season at USC in 2024. Prior to that, he was at UCLA in 2023. Again, the fact that Coach Lynn is coming back is a huge, it's significant. Last year, USC's defense gave up just 337 yards per game. The year before, when Alex Grinch was still the defensive coordinator, USC was giving up 433 yards per game. It's a 100-yard difference. That's a lot. This past season, USC's defense only allowed 24 points per game, which was down 10 points from the previous season. In fact, just to kind of really drive that point home, last year in 2024, USC allowed just 30 points 3 times. That happened 8 times in 2023. I mean, the improvements just keep going and going and going and going. There's so many data points to choose to point to. Here's another one. USC finished number 21 in the nation in opponents' third down conversion. The year before, USC might have just said, just take a first down. USC was 109th. I mean, that jump is significant. We know that USC in 2023 and in 2022 as well, defensively, they gave up a lot of explosive plays. Last year, not as many, not even close. In fact, USC tied for 36th in the country, allowing plays of 20 yards or more. The year before, USC was 124th in the nation. Again, USC wasn't perfect last year, but they didn't have to be. Imagine that defense in 2024 when USC still had Caleb Williams in 2023. Crazy, 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 crazy. If you've been listening and watching all week to Locked On USC, and my everydayers have, you know that Penn State's defensive coordinator, Tom Allen, he made that jump over to Clemson. He's taken over Dabo Swinney's defense. Well, yesterday there was a little bit of a dust up, so to speak. Over on the WeRSC message board, the VIP site, one Trojan fan started a little freak out session. He's like, hey, there's a flight from Happy Valley landing at John Wayne Santa Ana Airport. What's going on? Who's there? And, I pointed this out on yesterday's show that, hey, you know what? Penn State's women's basketball team's in town. I believe there's at least one flight daily that leaves from from College Park, from Happy Valley, coming into Southern California. So it turns out James Franklin was probably on that flight yesterday. Look, as I mentioned, it would be foolish. It would be naive to believe that Penn State and James Franklin wasn't going to reach out, put some feelers out there, kind of see if D'Anton Lynn had any interest in Penn State's defensive coordinator position. Remember, that's D'Anton Lynn's alma mater. And when mom calls, you always listen. I'll say it again. Coach Lynn's next defensive coordinator job is not going to be in college. It's going to be in the NFL, if that's what he chooses to do. His next job in college will be as a head coach, which makes you kind of wonder. You love the fact that USC stepped up, gave him a contract extension, more job security. What happens, because it's out there, that, Jerry Jones, the Dallas Cowboys owner, showed some interest in Lincoln Riley. Not saying it's happening. I'm just saying at least you have somebody in place that you feel a little bit confident they could take over the program. That's not why USC did this. USC did this because you do not want to lose an assistant coach or coordinator like a D'Anton Lynn, not after 1 year. So I get it. I get the attraction, going back home, coaching up the school that, developed you, taught you how to play the game, helped you kind of get into the coaching profession, so to speak. But, again, I don't know if he wanted to uproot his family, move to one of the coldest, loneliest destinations in the country. Pretty sure his wife didn't. Again, happy wife, happy life. And from what I understand, she really enjoys her lifestyle in Southern California. So everybody's happy, including Trojan fans. And I know all the players on the USC roster are extremely happy as well. Coaches are tweeting out, players, recruits. Good day, good times. So now that everyone knows that Coach Lynn is staying, maybe we can now name the next linebacker coach. Am I asking too much? USC coaching staff, we'll just stay on this tangent. They were out there. So Coach Lynn, contract extension, and USC's assistant coaches there were out and about. They were doing photo bombs all over high school campuses, specifically Mater Dei High School. Yeah, they were hanging out at Mater Dei the other day. I remember one of the low-key fan outrages last year. There were some USC fans who were really irritated, really irate with Lincoln Riley because he did not attend the Mater Dei versus St. John Bosco high school football game. I mean, if you listen to some of those fans tell the story, sometimes some of those stories ended with Lincoln Riley spitting in their mom's face and then laughing about it. I'm being a little hyperbolic, but you get the point, right? Well, Mater Dei held an open house type of event this week, and a handful of the Power 4 programs sent coaches, and they all ended up taking a group photo together. In this particular group photo was Penn State's James Franklin. USC sent 5 representatives. You had Zach Hansen, you had Sean Nua, you had Doug Belt, you had Eric Henderson, you had Luke Heward. That's good representation, right? You're showing Mater Dei that you care. I mentioned James Franklin was there from Penn State. It wasn't a total waste of a trip to Southern California. So again, what made Franklin's appearance in that picture so intriguing to everybody was that was going to be his opportunity, to come to California and convince Coach Lynn, come home, I need you. Didn't work. Well, at least Coach Franklin will have, some pictures to remind him of his trip to Southern California in 2025. So what do you think, everyone? You happy now? USC retained their defense coordinator. That might be the biggest pickup so far of the offseason. It's not 700 pounds of Jamal Jarrett or Keyshawn Silver. Still, it's a pretty big pickup. And it's more about retention. This is, if there was one coach on this staff that USC could not afford to lose, that was the guy, Coach D'Anton Lynn. So there you have it. Good news. Coach Lynn's coming back, keeping that stability, You got all that talent that's returning. You're bringing in more talent. We saw how good USC's defense was in 2024. They were learning the system, and they got better as the season went along. I'm looking for an even more improvement in year 2. And if that happens, USC fans, might be a good season. And it might, you know what? We're going to talk about this in the next segment, as you can see on the rundown. This might give Coach Riley something to work with, and I'll explain why here coming up. This message is brought to you by PrizePicks, the place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings, PrizePicks has changed the game in daily fantasy sports. Whether it's the playoffs or the regular season, PrizePicks has made it easier than ever for you to win big while enjoying all the football action that you love to enjoy. And now it's playoff time, and there's no better way to get into the action than with PrizePicks. Here's how it works. You simply are going to do this. You're going to pick more or less on at least 2 different players, and if your picks hit, you can win up to 1,000 times your cash. Yes, that's right. 1,000 times your money just by making a few simple picks. It's that easy. For me, if you're looking at the playoffs that are coming up and you got, let's say you're a USC fan and you see Amon-Ra St. Brown on the board. Pick more or less how many receptions he'll have in the game. Pick more or less touchdowns that Amon-Ra will receive in that game. It's that simple. And with the app, the PrizePick app, you're going to get your winnings really fast. Sometimes you're going to get it in as little as 15 minutes. Get ready to run your game this football season. Download the app today. Use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 just for playing. Don't wait. Take your game to the next level with PrizePicks. PrizePicks. Run your game. Is Lincoln Riley willing to kind of roll the dice, roll it out there with a true freshman at quarterback? Interesting. If this game was against LSU in Las Vegas, I would bet against it. However, USC's not opening up against LSU in Las Vegas. They're opening up at home with their first 2 games. The first game's against something called Missouri State. No disrespect to Missouri State, but you are not on USC's level. It's your first year playing the FBS or Conference USA or whatever, conference you guys are moving into. And then the week after that, you've got Clay Helton. He's bringing in his stiff-jawed Warriors, Georgia Southern. All of a sudden, you're thinking, you know what? Maybe it's not out of the realm of possibility, huh? It's the offseason. This is when we kind of look into the future, speculate about players, positions, talk about the depth chart, yada, 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 all that type of stuff. Spring camp will be here soon enough. But I was thinking about this because I've made the argument I like tough out-of-conference schedules. You're going to have to pry that from my cold, dead hands. I will go to the grave with that. I am not a fan of USC versus Missouri State and Georgia Southern. But, if that's the schedule we get, all right, well, what's the best way to get USC ready? And when I say get USC ready, I'm talking about the future as well. So USC's depth chart at quarterback. Their most recent addition, Sam Heward, who was a former 5-star quarterback coming out of high school. He started his career at Washington. Then he transferred down to Cal Poly SLO, San Luis Obispo. Ended up at Utah, and now is at USC. We know Jaden Mayaba, conference freshman of the year. He eventually took over for Miller Moss at USC. And now you have elite 5-star Husan Longstreet, who, by the way, will be starting class at USC on Tuesday next week. He, along with Tristan Castro and Alex Graham and Matai Tagovailoa, all those guys are over in Hawaii right now getting ready to play the Poly Bowl. They'll be at USC next week going to class, which means they'll be part of the winter conditioning program, which means they're taking part in spring camp as well. Remember this? Tell me if you said this. Jaden Mayava needs to start over Miller Moss because he has the stronger arm and he can use his legs when stuff breaks down. Yeah, I see a lot of hands back there. If this was Romper Room, I could see Bobby and Billy and Jill and Kelly and Kim. If you know, you know. You got to be old enough to know what Romper Room's all about. All right. So, do you remember that chorus from the fans last season? Heard it all year long. Well, Husan Longstreet has an arm just as big as Jaden Mayava's, maybe even bigger. And I know that Husan knows how to use his athleticism. He could pick him up and put him down when he wants to. He had to a lot this past year at Centennial. His offensive line wasn't very good. Well, Husan just won the long ball competition over there on the islands. He threw a ball that traveled 78 yards in the air. Yeah, that's a heave. That's a toss. And there was no wind behind him. There was no wind aid. This was just pure arm talent. Look, I fully anticipate that Jaden is going to be the starter when the season opens. Again, if there was ever a chance for Coach Riley to kind of throw caution to the wind, get a true freshman ready, 2025 is the season. You're playing at home against inferior competition for the first two games. That is the perfect way to break in a new quarterback and build some confidence. And then a week later, you kind of, you increase the stress test, step up in competition. You got, so again, Missouri State, then Georgia Southern. Clay's going to come into town upset on his mind. Ain't going to make a difference, but whatever. But it's not like USC hasn't done this before. Remember Matt Barkley? Matt Barkley's first college football game was back in 2009, end of August. USC's first college football game this year, end of August. It was against San Jose State. San Jose State, probably it's a small step up over Missouri State. Well, Barkley was a true freshman. He became the first true freshman to start a season opener in USC's program history. The final result of that game, well, Matt was pretty good. He completed 15 and 19 passes, 233 yards, one touchdown. USC won 56-3. So you can see he only threw the ball 19 times. USC ran the ball as well. Game 2 was a little bit more challenging for Matty Trojan. It was at the shoe, under the lights, in front of 100,000 screaming Bucknut fans. Remember, this was supposed to be the revenge game. They came out to USC in 2008, and USC just buried them. Smashed their heads against a curb. Yeah, it was ugly. Ugly. Yeah, 38-3, 35-3. Coach Riley actually has a better setup this year. He might not have Matt Barkley and Joe McKnight and Stephon Johnson making history, but his first two games are at home against SEC quality out-of-conference competition. I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Missouri State or Georgia Southern, but let's call a spade a spade. And then USC's first game on the road after you host those two cupcakes against Purdue, who has a new head coach, a new system, a new roster. Don't tell me that Coach Riley's not considering this. And so are you now. As I lay out the argument, you're thinking, oh, well, you know what? Mark makes a lot of sense. I always make a lot of sense. But this time you're going, okay, I'm listening. Again, This is the perfect setup if Husan looks like he can handle the playbook. He also has to be a vocal leader. He's got to show he could lead the team. Speaking of being vocal, I have my Friday rant coming up next. So I just want to kind of throw that out there. Great news. D'Anton Lynn staying. He's going to be USC's defensive coordinator. Husan Longstreet is opening eyes over there in Hawaii. He's throwing darts to other 5-star wide receivers. And he's showing off his arm strength. So now we'll see what happens when he actually plays the game. He'll show up to USC, dive into the playbook as well as his other books in class, go through winter conditioning. And then when spring camp arrives, may the best man win. All right, Friday rant coming up. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, today, new customers, you can bet $5 and you can get $300 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. It's that simple. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is so easy to use. You're not going to need some sort of IT specialist to show you how to use it. It's just open it up. You're going to trust me. Really easy. And there are multiple ways to bet and win. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. There's no waiting around for your winnings. Whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com, join today, and you're going to get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make the playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I'm here to tell you, getting old sucks. Those aches and pains, they just seem to linger a little bit longer. I feel like they never go away. And yet you can't do some of the things, some of that stuff that you used to do when you're in your prime. You can still do it. You just can't do it as well and as longer. You think twice about it. Look, I'm a Generation Xer, Gen X, born in 1967, graduated high school in 1985. And I loved my days of youth. I miss them so much. The 80s are awesome. And it spawned some pretty cool stuff in the 90s as well. What I remember and miss the most was the energy and that don't mess with us attitude. I think that's why I was always attracted to USC. That fight song, the colors. But when you say Trojan, you're just like, oh, that's a warrior. You don't want to mess with those guys. The energy at the football games, that's what I miss. The when you showed up and you just got that feeling of we're going to do it our way and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. I need to feel that energy again. I'm missing that. I know a lot of you are in my age range and you understand what I'm talking about. Look, we were all there. We were in the Coliseum watching when Pete Carroll had USC kicking ass, taking names. Going to a USC football game was an experience. From the tailgating to the game itself, all the hoopla in between during the game. The sidelines were packed with celebrities. And, depending on the opponent, whoever USC was hosting that week, the energy, it started at like midnight before the game, the day before. Sometimes even earlier. You had cars lining up for tailgating. If you're familiar with USC's game day situation, back in the day, not too long ago, you would enter off of Vermont onto 39th Street, and you kind of had your direction, which parking lot to go to. Go left, go right, go to the South Lawn. Anyways, depending on who USC was playing that week, that line of cars waiting just to get in to set up for tailgating would wrap around. So it would start on Vermont, wrap back around onto Martin Luther King Boulevard, wrap back around onto Figueroa. Yeah. Sometimes it was a long line, but it was just people waiting to start. They could not wait for the game. I mean, you saw these little barbecues on the sidewalk, people cooking at 2 a.m. A lot of fun. All that's gone now, and that needs to return somehow. And when you got into the side of the Coliseum, what really got the crowd's juices flowing was hearing the team's entrance music. When that was blasting through the sound system, Eminem's One Shot, Don't Miss Your Chance, the way the music just built up to a crescendo, and then boom, all of a sudden the Trojans busting out of the tunnel. It was energy. It was visceral. You could feel it. I want that energy back inside the Coliseum. In fact, I even want to crank it up a notch. Again, Spinal Tap. Turn it up to 11. Doesn't stop at 10. I want to feel rage. Yeah. That type of energy. Positive rage, not the negative stuff. I want Marshall Mathers on steroids. You know what that is? That's Kid Rock. If you're old enough to remember Ba Da Ba, then you know what kind of energy, that visceral reaction, how it can generate. You don't believe me? I mean, it's just full-on rage energy. Hit your YouTube search bar. Kid Rock, Ba Da Ba, Woodstock 99. And tell me when you're done watching that if you're not ready to go plow through a wall. I promise you. You will. That is your workout music. Go make it happen. I mean, it makes you want to fight on and on. It's like a bomb exploding. It's 1,000 tailor-made hits combusting all at once. USC Game Days has been missing that for a really long time. I need the fans to start to want it more. You got to bring that passion. You got to give your team that home field advantage. Start going to the basketball games. Figure it out. When Michigan State shows up on September 20th, you're going to have the Trojans versus the Spartans. That Coliseum needs to feel like you're watching the movie 300. Yeah, that. I am so sick and tired of watching other fan bases who have very little to nothing in their trophy cases, or programs like Notre Dame and Ohio State who have a lot to be proud of, who show up win or lose. USC needs to be more like that. Not just for football, for men and women's basketball too. Let me remind everybody, USC baseball still has more national championships than any other program in the country. It's been a while since they won one, but number 12 needs to turn into number 13 sooner rather than later. I am tired of hearing the excuse that there's too many things to do in Southern California. When USC is winning, we'll show up. It's too expensive. BS. Don't want to hear it. All those things you can do in Southern California, guess what? You know USC's football season, you know their schedule well in advance. We're in January. You already know their first game is August 30th, and you know the date of every single game after that. Go mark up your calendars. And between now and then, go do those things. Go to Disneyland, go to a concert, go to the beach, do whatever. I'm asking you to reserve 6 or 7 Saturdays, 6 or 7 weekends per year. Is it so hard? It's not. No more excuses. I want to sell out for every single home game. And I want to hear Kid Rock blowing up the loudspeakers while the Song Girls are doing their thing. Imagine the Song Girls forming that tunnel, the Spirit Squad forming that tunnel, the team behind the curtain, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got the Song Girls out there doing their thing. Tell me the crowd would not be into it. I'm full of ideas. Just Have the marketing department get in touch with me, and I will tell them how to do things. I mean, imagine the Spirit of Troy's drum line getting in on it, doing that drum solo. Oof. Yeah, sign me up. Again, for my younger everydayers who are saying, well, what's this dude talking about? If you need to know what I'm talking about, you're on YouTube. When you're done with the show, type it in that search engine bar, Kid Rock Woodstock 99. Look at the crowd. Feel that energy. Turn it up as loud as you can. And then go ahead and wipe that drool off your chin and make it happen. I'm telling you, it's intimidating. Other fan bases would be going, oh my God, did you just feel that? The opposition was saying, what did we walk into? Do we want any of this? I want all of that. I want to do another episode of Locked On USC now, but this show's over. I'll be back with another 5 episodes next week. I might even do an instant reaction show after USC takes on Wisconsin in basketball this Saturday. Get your butts to Galen Center. Take a break from anything you might be experiencing in life right now. If you're living in LA, those fires, I know it sucks. You deserve a little bit of good time. Take a couple hours out of your day. Go have a good time. I'm giving you permission. All right. Thank you, everybody, for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Again, if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Continue to help this show grow. Click that red subscribe button, smash that thumbs up, and click that bell notification. I don't want you to miss an episode. I will keep you up to date on everything about USC during the entire offseason, all the way up to game 1. This is the place to be. So until then, everyone, you know what to do.